We've all seen how social media can be used as a polarizing weapon, tool of manipulation, and leading cause for depression. But today, I'd like to shed a little bit of light on how, when used uniquely, social media can be one of the most powerful ways to encourage and celebrate the people around us. Growing up in a family of 7, one of the biggest habits we had in our house was sharing our highs and lows around the dinner table each day. And I was amazed as a kid how often the highlights we shared were a direct result of the people's actions in our life. And so when I left home and went off to university, I set out a goal to remind myself that I should always look for unique ways to create special moments in the other lives around me. And being a younger person, some might say a Gen Zer, I was naturally drawn to social media to create those special moments. And over the last little while, I've been wildly amazed at how big of a list there is of fun and unique ways to breathe humanity back into how we use social media. But somewhere in between being a student and starting our mortgage payments, I think we lose track of how we can reach out and spark a conversation without any agenda at all. But if I was to survey the people watching this today, I could place a bet on the top 3 people that come to mind when you think of social media. Firstly, you have the sleazy salesperson, probably on Facebook. You have the inauthentic Instagram influencer. And then you have the political voice on Twitter. And my question for you today is, what if we flipped the script and there wasn't a corporate agenda to sell or a political position to gain? What if the sole premise of our time on these platforms was just to spread optimism and encourage others through the words we have? And that's what I would like to dig in today. I'd like to share 3 stories I've learned in my own life of how, when used uniquely, social media can breathe humanity back into our relationships. Idea number 1, the power of shaping a wow moment. When I was a student at university, I did a semester exchange in Ottawa, and I was positioned a couple minutes down the road from a big company I looked up to called Shopify. And you might have heard of them today. During my time there as a student, my goal was to see if I could maybe meet with the COO of the company, Harley Finkelstein. He was an inspiring person, always on the news, and always appeared to be a great storyteller. And so, out of my ambition to see if we could meet for coffee, I went to Instagram to see if maybe we could connect. But within a couple weeks, I heard nothing back at all. And so for a last attempt, I thought I would try and drop off a gift to thank him for the example he was in my life. So I took to social media to actually get in touch with some of his friends to help. I reached out to people like the founder of David's Tea, the mayor of Ottawa, and actually a mentor of his that was at Google. And within a couple days, they all loved the idea, and they sent along a couple inspiring words since they knew the person that Harley was. And within a week, I put together a little package with some other notes and included a note of my own, and I walked on over to the head office and dropped it right at the desk of the receptionist, and I addressed it to his EA. I walked home and thought nothing else of it. But the next day, I got an email back from Harley saying, "Whatever you want, let's do it. Thanks for the creative gift that you left." And that story still sticks out to me this day of how, when used uniquely, we can use social media to shape these wow moments that can open up a conversation. Harley still works at Shopify today, now as their president, and the company is valued at $150 billion today. Never think that your idea or the person you're wanting to chat with is too ambitious of an idea. Instead, think of how you can use social media to shape a wow moment, and you'll be surprised with what you can end up with. Story number 2, sow seeds of kindness. Over the last couple years, there's been a mentor in my life that's always gone above and beyond in the help that he's offered. And so he's the kind of guy that whenever I try to thank him with a coffee or lunch, it never seems like it's quite enough. But in one of our conversations, he referenced a book called Good to Great by Jim Collins. Some of you might be familiar with it. And after that meeting, I had a light bulb moment to see if maybe I could get in touch with the author to send an inspiring note and a signed copy of the book to give his way. But I didn't know where to start. And so I went to social media to draft a couple notes on the platforms to see which ones he'd respond to. And sure enough, one of them he got back to, and he was more than happy to help. He responded, loved the idea, and CC'd his team to send off a signed copy of the book, and even included one for myself. Later that week, as I'm preparing for my next meeting, I got a little excited and dropped it off, waiting for his reaction. And sure enough, the disbelief on his eye and his face proved that it was a creative gift of kindness that gave him a fun surprise. And to this day, I'm still reminded that the other people we see on the other side of the screen, although they're busy, although they might be distracted, they're always willing to help as long as we ask. And so I challenge you, the next idea you have that seems too far stretched, see how you can use social media to sow a seed of kindness, because other people are always open to helping if they can. Story number 3, start surprising. A while back, it was my wife's birthday, and I wanted to go above and beyond since that's what she's always done for me. Since it was her 24th birthday, I thought instead of doing the flowers and chocolates, I'd go a step deeper and act on her love language, which was words of affirmation. And so as it was her 24th birthday, I thought I'd try and reach out to 24 of her closest friends, mentors, and past bosses to see if they could help send a note of a memory or quality that they're reminded of when they hear of my wife. And so within a couple days, I take to Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. And from most of this group, they had never seen or met me in person. They were people from large groups of companies, in different time zones, and within a couple days, I received those 24 notes, and some of them even got back to me within a couple minutes. I was amazed that these people wanted to take time out of their day to make a special moment for the birthday of my wife. And sure enough, we're on the top floor of the restaurant, we're sitting down and having our meal, and when I cue the server, my wife gets a little confused when he hands her the piece of paper with the notes. And she opens it up, and to disbelief, she's surprised by all the names that were willing and creative enough to send a note to package together on her birthday. And as she starts to read it, she starts to tear up, blown away by the process of people caring for her, even though they weren't physically there with her that night. It was safe to say it was a much better decision than the flowers option. And it was also a unique reminder that people are never too far away to help and be there in the moment. I think we've made social media about how big of an influence one celebrity can have, when it really should be about how big of an impact any person can have with one message. And there's no denying that social media is a toxic environment when not used right. But what I'm trying to say is, if you're creative enough and willing to be thinking outside the box, I think it can be one of the most untapped, free ways to celebrate and encourage the people in our community. So if I may, I'd like to present 3 tips for the next time you're using social media. Tip number 1, stand for something. We all know the statistics around depression and suicide rates are climbing. And so there's no denying that encouragement is in high demand and often low supply. Be someone that's going to stand for something when the opportunity presents itself. Tip number 2, build an encouragement system. Grab a friend, mentor, or even a parent, and look at the way you use social media on a daily basis. When you're scrolling or looking at catching up on photos, see how you can reach out and send a message when the time is right. And tip number 3, most importantly, don't wait for the right opportunity. Send a message today. It doesn't need to be a haiku poem or a Shakespeare essay. It just needs to be a step forward. Think of the author, teacher, or business person that's inspired you to be who you are today. As long as you're creative, genuine, and polite, the worst thing that can happen is that you waste 30 seconds of your day on a note that doesn't get seen. But the best thing that can happen, hoping that they see it, is that it sparks a reminder of that person's incredible value to the world, and it opens up a dialogue for the years to come. When do you think the last time was that the person had an encouraging note? What do you think that person wrestles through on a daily basis with their thoughts? The next time that you're scrolling on your phone, stop, be brave, and send a message. Because you never know where it can lead. Thank you.